Please be seated. Welcome to another class of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Teacher Certification course. I'd like to thank everybody also that's out there online and listening or watching, whatever the case might be. And to remind you that there is a link at the top. If you're on Facebook, there's a link at the top where you can actually download the books so that you can have them available free of charge to follow along in class. And some of you may have the books also. Now, one of the things I'd like to point out tonight is not only, we have the character unit that we refer to time and time again, and tonight where we'll be is in the acceptance manual. Right there. That's what it looks like right there. There's a couple different variations of that. This is one of the newer books, which I recommend you get. And tonight we'll be on page, the lesson will be starting actually on page 75. We're going to do a little quick review of the, just briefly, of the previous night's lessons. So, to begin with, let's go ahead and look at page 61. Page 61 in your acceptance manual. Now, this is talking about the importance of friends and friendship. And I've heard the author of the Peaceful Solution say, you can't have too many friends. You've got to have friends. You know, that's all there is to it. To even learn how to conduct yourself properly with people, you've got to have interaction. You can't just stick your head in the sand somewhere and, or up on a hilltop somewhere, something like that, So this is chapter 4, and it's the importance of friends and friendship. That's the beginning page. That's the introduction. If you look on the next page, one of the topics is who is a friend. And just briefly, a friend is one who supports, respects, encourages, and accepts you as a unique individual. Then it goes into choosing friends. And on the next page, it actually tells you, gives you a kind of a breakdown of deciding how you could decide to be friends with somebody. Then if you turn over to page 65, we've got the barriers that might come and the barriers to forming friendships. And then when friendships don't work, there's going to be those times where you've got to deal with rejection or possibly the choice of not having that friendship anymore once you see things that might come out of somebody. Then there's on page 67, it's talking about conformity, and it gives you a great breakdown of conformity. On page 68, it talks about negative conformity. So we talk about positive and negative conformity. And then over on page 70, you've got cliques. There was a lot of talk about cliques. I remember William initially showed a slide, I believe it was, on kind of how cliques are formed and, who's at the top of the pyramid and coming on down, I remember that. It really caught my eye. And so it gives you an idea of the generalizations that people join in on, the stereotyping, and how it can form into these cliques, which really does get into bullying. On page 72, there's an overview of bullying and that it is bad news. And then we've got some solutions on page 73 and 74 that are simple solutions for dealing with a bully. Of course, one of the best ways is to stay out of his way. I've been aware of times that bullying was, reported. And bullying goes very deep. It's not just going up and punching somebody in the face. Bullying starts by making snide remarks to one another, or even children pushing each other or throwing something at each other, it begins so subtly, and then it grows into something that gets out of control, even to the point where somebody blows their top and somebody gets hurt, or there's hurt feelings, and so forth. So there's some simple solutions there on dealing with a bully. And I think Catan spoke last on and was covering this on page 74. I'm just going to talk about these helpful hints to protect you and your friends from being bullied. A few of the things are: do not carry a weapon. It could be used against you, and of course it's illegal. Retreat from the bully if possible. There's nothing that says you have to stand there toe-to-toe with a bully, and stay out of his way if you can completely. If cornered, speak in a firm, positive manner. Don't be smart alecky, Don't appear timid or scared. That might be hard to do, but you've got to try your best to not appear timid or scared. Definitely do not physically attack the other person, because that would be retaliation. Do not stand around watching others get bullied. Get them some help. Talk with classmates about agreeing that bullying is not cool and shouldn't even be allowed in the school. And promote programs and discussions about bullying. Make it a point to deal with conflict in a nonviolent manner. Learn about conflict resolution, peer mediation, and anger management techniques, which we're learning right now, of course, in the Peaceful Solution. And get assistance from school counselors. And you might have to explain to them how serious the situation is. And help make your school environment a place where it is acceptable to be kind. So that's some of the things that we could do to make sure we're not involved in bullying, and that we're helping do everything we can to keep bullying from being prevalent in our school or in our environment. So if we'll turn to the lesson plan at the beginning of the chapter on page lesson plan 4, page E. It's actually the page in front of page 61. And look at procedure number 8. So this is starting off here. It says, tell students that once they find someone they would call a friend, they must continue to work on the relationship. It takes time and work to maintain a friendship, and we're going to be talking about that throughout this class. Ask students to turn to page 75 through 76 and read the section entitled Maintaining Friendships. So that's what we're going to do right now, is we're going to go ahead and turn to page 75 through 76, which is the section entitled Maintaining Friendships. So if you would, turn to page 75 with me in your acceptance unit. So, maintaining friendships. Now, when you find a friend, it takes a lot. Actually, it takes a lot of work, which you'll see. It takes a lot of work in finding a friend, a real friend. And so you're going to want to work on maintaining this friendship. And just real briefly here. It reminds me of, I like to think of maintaining a car. I've got a little experience with cars, and so my mind kind of goes in that direction. And it's like this. I've got a picture here for you to see. Now that right there, see, looking at that picture, that is a car being maintained. Somebody is checking the oil or transmission fluid here, I can tell. Looks like probably transmission fluid. So they're checking the fluids on their car. Now there's much more to it than just checking your fluids. But that is a major part of keeping your car running properly, is being sure that your fluids are up to par. Coolant, oil, transmission fluid, power steering fluid, a multitude of things, okay? And from time to time it may need a little bit of work, also a little bit of adjustment, which you'll want to get taken care of as soon as possible, because and that's like friendships. You've got to do the same thing. It takes a little bit of work from time to time. So I've got another picture for you here. Just like with a car, if you're not careful and you don't maintain that car properly, you could find yourself in this position right here, in your backyard, because the car won't run for a few months until you get the money to go buy another engine and get this one taken out, and you got to get someone to help you, and you're all over there getting yourself beat up on pulling this engine out. It's a mess. It's not fun to do, okay? I know a few mechanics, and they'd rather do anything than pull an engine and put another one in, I can assure you. So maintaining friendships is a lot like maintaining a car. If you don't do it properly, you can get to that point to where it's friendship removal. Whether they remove themselves or you remove them, something's going to occur if you don't take care of that friendship. So we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. The first sentence that we're looking at there says rejection, conformity, bullying, and cliques are all problems that can arise as we interact and form relationships. And they do quite often. I mean, in fact, all of that right there is prevalent when forming friends. Let's take a look first at the rejection. Turn to page 65 with me. Now, it hasn't been that many classes ago that we went over some of this, but this is a great reminder about these things. So, all right. So halfway down the page approximately it says when friendships don't work, and this is dealing with rejection. As hard as you might try, the person you want to be friends with might not want to be friends with you. Now, accepting that your personalities are not compatible or that the other person is not interested in your friendship can be pretty hard to deal with. You know, emotions get in there. Emotions get in the way. And emotions are strong. Don't be guided by your emotions. You know, it takes a little practice to get away from that. Emotions are there for a reason, but don't make your decisions based on emotion, okay? So, dealing with rejection is never easy. You might even question your sense of self-worth. You might ask yourself questions such as, why doesn't she like me, or why doesn't he want me on his team, or what's wrong with me, and then that can go pretty deep too, especially in the teen years. Adults too, but especially in the teen years, that seems to be pretty prevalent, and people really worried about, what's wrong with me, I don't look right, or, all these things. So you might even do a quick breath check or check the mirror to make sure you don't have something stuck in your teeth, and you try desperately to find a way to solve the problem so you can be this person's friend. But the truth is, your personality might not be the problem, and the other person might not be the problem either. Sometimes things just don't turn out the way that you want them to. You just have to accept it sometimes. It's just a part of life. And so the most important thing is to find ways to deal with this rejection that won't cause you to feel depressed or cause you to hurt yourself or others. Let's go ahead and look back at conformity also, just so we can have these terms in our mind, because we're going to be, kind of talking about them a little bit. So, page 67, conformity. We don't have to take the whole page here, but at the very top it says, sometimes when making friends, you might find yourself conforming or changing the way you think, act, or feel in order to fit in and be accepted. So what they're describing here is some influences that are coming your way. Remember, influences? An influence is anything that can affect the way that you think, the way you feel, or the way you act. It can. Okay? Keep that in mind. And when you're trying to make friends and there's a group of people and you'd like to be their friend, that influence becomes even heavier. That influence to conform to whatever they're doing. In fact, I think it was William that brought up when talking about conformity, he mentioned like a sock. You put a sock on, it conforms around your foot. It takes that shape. It becomes like your foot in a way. And so it is with conformity also when dealing with people. We can become like them, or we can have a positive influence on them, and they can become like us. It works both ways. So you got to keep this conformity in mind. I mean, I've heard it said that bad company corrupts great character. So you've got to keep that in mind. All right, so because friendships are based upon these shared similarities, likes and dislikes, some conforming will naturally occur. For example, all your friends like a certain designer shirt or something. Well, soon all your friends have that same shirt. Owning this shirt has now become a standard to be in that group. Well, now you're already well on your way to becoming like a clique or a club or something like that, you know. But one of the most common forms of conformity is called peer pressure. Peer pressure is when you feel like you must behave in a certain way in order for your friends to respect you or see you as an equal. Peer pressure can be either positive or negative. So with that in mind, reading this first sentence again, and we're going to talk about some more words in it, but rejection, conformity, bullying, and cliques are all problems that can arise as we interact and we form relationships. Now, is there anybody in here that hasn't seen a clique before? Especially the adults, possibly not the children in the room, but is there anyone that has not seen a clique? That has not seen a gang? I don't see any hands going up, so that tells me it's a pretty prevalent thing, right? I mean, we've all been to school and we've seen these things take place, and these gangs and cliques, they can be very cruel. Okay, so rejection and conformity. All right, in the middle of the page on 67, it's always right to conform to something morally positive and beneficial. It's always right to conform to that, because it builds you up and builds others up. It does not harm you. It does not harm others. Positive conformity encourages you to make moral choices. And positive conformity is when you are encouraged to obey proper authority, when you keep yourself and others safe and you won't cause harm, are encouraged to support and practice moral values. All right, so you can go back and read more about that. All right, bullying. If you'll turn with me to page 72, we're just going to get these, firmly in our mind here. I would think that everybody has experienced some type of bullying, whether you were the bully or whether you were being bullied. I would think that we all have to some degree. And children a lot of times do it without even knowing they're doing it. I think adults probably realize it most of the time. Possibly sometimes not. As you learn the peaceful solution, though, and become aware of how it operates, and as you start teaching the peaceful solution, it should come to mind more and more when you are bullying or being bullied. It should really pop out, and that gives us an opportunity to remain friends, to maintain a friendship, to talk about it, and apologize if necessary. Of course, if we find we've done something, or even possibly a person thought we've done something, we might still want to apologize, just to get past that and maintain that friendship. On the top of the page, on page 72, it says, "Did you know that there are some people who actually take pleasure in hurting others?" Well, yes, there are. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had any kind of torturing taking place throughout the world in history, which you can go and read about. Even most recently, some prisoners that were thought to have something to do with terrorizing the United States citizens, they were tortured to try to find out answers of where the next attack might take place and so forth. And I just remember being taught in school that torturing doesn't work. In fact, we talked about torturing in the medieval times and so forth, and we kind of laughed about it, like, there's no way to win. If you're thrown into a big cauldron, and if you float, you're a witch, and if you sink and die, you're not. So you just can't win either way, and that's kind of how torture is. But yet some people do take pleasure in hurting others. Excuse me. They have yet to learn the peaceful solution, which means showing respect for one another and having healthy interactions to build lasting friendships. Instead, they steal the rights of others to be safe, and they rob people of the opportunity to make friends. They are called bullies. Look at the next paragraph. If you're the bully, think about your actions. Choosing to belittle or hurt others for fun or just because you can is cruel. Picking on, teasing, children, listen to this. Picking on, teasing, and physically assaulting someone can affect him or her for life. Look at the next paragraph. Hurting someone is a no-brainer. It takes far more intelligence to interact in a positive, healthy way. And so don't wait until you've grown up to realize that your actions are hurting others. And if we have grown up and we're still hurting others with our actions, we need to get out of that too. Let's go back to page 75. Real briefly, clicks. Let's look at that on page 70. I think we kind of already touched on it a few times here, but sometimes fitting in and being accepted means finding the group of friends that you are most comfortable with. Wanting to be around those who share the similar interests and values is normal, but it doesn't change the fact that we're individuals. And these cliques and generalizations, here's some examples of the generalizations on down there. Blondes are dumb, silly or dizzy. That was the thing back in the day, you know, but athletes are dumb jocks and smart or studious people are geeks. And they've got different words for all that now probably, but throughout the years it remains that usually smart or studious people are teased, and then other people, because of their appearance, are teased for whatever reason. And so we've got to keep in mind we don't want to group everybody into some general category. You can go back and read that yourself and get a better understanding of it. So rejection, conformity, bullying, and cliques are all problems that can arise as we interact and form relationships. When you consider these problems, now considering is stopping and thinking about it a little bit. Considering, you would have to, if you're considering the other person, you want to consider all these things in forming a friendship, but one of the best ways to form a friendship is to consider the other person. Consider how they're thinking also. Consider what they've been through in their life. Considering is more than just thinking about it. It's putting yourself in that person's shoes. It's having empathy. It's having compassion, care, and concern. You might be super smart with math, but you might be finding out your friend isn't so slick with it, They might not even know something as simple as their multiplication tables. Well, I just said it was simple. It was simple to me. It might not be simple to someone else sitting out here in this room. But should I wave that over somebody with an arrogance? No. You've got to consider other people and what they've been through. You've got to consider what they have knowledge of. You've got to consider their talents. Some of you have seen and possibly read about, savants, where many of them cannot even hold a conversation, can't even tie their shoes, need help with everyday things that they do. But in one thing, they excel to such a degree. Might be that they can play the piano, just hearing a very long, ornate song by Bach or something, and they just get on the piano and start plunking it out to perfection, with just hearing it one time. They might be able to see an animal in a picture or in a zoo or something and go home and take a piece of clay and mold it perfectly to what they saw. Or possibly their acute hearing and senses they're so strong that you could drop a box of matches and within seconds they can tell you how many matches are laying on the floor. I mean, it's just amazing talents, but yet, I don't have any of those talents like that. But I can tie my shoes. I can work on a car. I can fix food. I can interact with people, And there are some things that I have a talent at that I try to remember others when dealing with them. We should all try to remember others and walk in their shoes and look at them with respect, with true care and concern and empathy, and not think that we have something over them, because there's probably something that they do very well that you can't do. It's just finding that thing, right? So, with some people, you can see it right away. With others, you got to, kind of work on it a little bit. But everybody is special, and everybody has something to add to life, to add value to this society and life in general. So you consider these things, you consider these problems that are even talked about, and it helps us to be more appreciative of the people that we can actually call our friends. Turn back to page 62 with me, if you will. Those of you that have a book, and again, I hope if you don't, that you can get one, or go online and print out a few pages, or look at it online, whatever the case might be. But we've already read, who is a friend on page 62 is one who supports, respects, encourages, and accepts you as an individual, a unique individual. Friends can come in all shapes and sizes and from all walks of life, and they can come from all nationalities and ethnicities. It's important not to cut yourself off from getting to know someone because they're different. Keep in mind that no two people are exactly alike. We are all unique human beings who share more similarities than differences. I remember in grade school, there was I was a bit of a bully, and I had learned it from someone else, but, that's the way I could get attention, I guess. But I remember bullying one guy, and he grabbed me and flipped me over on the ground. That's not the right thing to do by any means. He retaliated, but he didn't know what to do. He wasn't taught the peaceful solution. But I remember that we became actually close friends, and we found out that we both liked cars. We both liked any kind of mechanics and, electrical and mechanical and so forth, we both had a talent in dealing with those things. So we became very close friends. And so you never know what to expect. You might be, by cutting yourself off just because you don't like the way a person looks or their size or their shape or their color or what have you, you might find that you're really missing out on something great. So keep in mind, no two people are exactly alike, and we are all unique human beings, and we share a lot more similarities than differences. The importance of choosing positive friends cannot be overstated. People with immoral principles and negative character as friends can influence you to make choices that you could regret for the rest of your life. And young people, this is so very important to remember. Learning to recognize the qualities that make a positive friend takes time and effort. And on the next page, on page 63, of course, it breaks down some ideas on just how to decide to be friends. And it's proven, it's a proven way that works, is what it is. Okay, so back to page 75, please. Despite all of these barriers to developing true friendships, you can still learn to choose friends that are positive, moral, and supportive. Once you've found true friends, the next important step to maintain your friendships, of course, this step is to maintain your friendships. And of course, maintaining friendships cannot be one-sided. Everyone involved must value the friendship and work at remaining friends. And, of course, the importance of friends, you can refer back to page 61 to help you understand a bit more of the importance of friends. It really comes in handy having friends, somebody that you can call on when there's a problem. Everyone has problems from time to time. Have you ever had a flat out on the road and you didn't have any money with you, you didn't have a, auto club or something, and so you called a friend? Someone that could possibly come and help you or try to get you some help, right? So that's just one instance where a friend comes in very handy to have. And you could do the same thing for your friend. Maintaining friendship begins with mutual respect and commitment. There are many ways that respect can be shown. For example, asking permission. No is okay. Asking permission before using or even touching your friend's belongings and accepting his answer even if it is no. That's an important aspect of maintaining friendships. Now, if you've got your character unit, page 10, I think it is, page 10 and 11, yeah. In your character unit, page 10, it starts out at the top and it says, what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. Of course, before I learned the peaceful solution and started studying the peaceful solution, I would have said what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine. You know, that's kind of the idea out there. That's how it works, you know. I know a lot of people like that still to this day that believe that way, or at least to some degree. But what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours, and that's the way it should be. Behaving morally in regards to the possessions and property of others means to recognize that everybody owns things and values what they own. What one person values, another might not. But it's still necessary to respect the possessions of others. And you have rights with those possessions too. Go down to the beginning of the next paragraph down there, about halfway down. It says, can you recall a time when you made a decision about something you owned and your decision was not accepted? Yeah, I bet we can. Look at the little cartoon right there next to it. If you have a book, it shows a girl asking another one, can I borrow your book? And the girl says, well, no, I can't lend my stuff out. Whatever the reason, she has a very good reason, or a very great reason, and it's hers. It's her stuff. She can choose to do that or not. She can choose to loan it or not loan it. Or possibly her parents have told her that she's not allowed to loan her stuff out, right? So, but look at the next portion of it. Oh, come on, that's not fair. I'd let you borrow mine. And you call yourself a friend. You know, you ever had that occur? Oh, I have. You know, someone starts trying to sway your decision, change your mind, and get you to do what they want you to do. That's manipulation. You know, they might even try to flatter you with some praise or something, and in doing this with selfish desire, you know, trying to manipulate the situation. But you've got to remember that no is okay. You have the right to say no concerning your belongings unless you've been told otherwise by your authority, which could be your parents or your supervisor, what have you. Now, remember that saying no is also your right. It's something that we all desire for ourselves as well as others. You can also be polite. Simple acts of courtesy, such as saying please and thank you to your friends. Now, if you're not used to doing this, it almost sounds a little bit corny at first, you know. You're not used to really speaking respectfully with your friends and you know, kind of rude to each other sometimes, and you start realizing that, hey, we should be talking to each other better. And when you hear that thank you, you're like, okay, well, you're welcome, you know. And you start actually getting into it a little bit more. And it sure is a lot better than, you know, all right, bro, you know, or something, or, you know, whatever, you know, thank you, please, you're welcome. Those are things that aren't going to be taken wrong by anybody. Whereas some of the other slang we might use in expressing our, you know, thanks for something, somebody might construe it as sarcastic or some type of bullying, you know, surely disrespectful. So let's keep that in mind to talk to each other properly. Another important aspect, the part about simple acts of courtesy, such as saying please, thank you, and so forth to your friends, but as well as not interrupting them when they speak, are always ways you can demonstrate respect. Now, I know that that interrupting, you know, it's kind of hard sometimes with these cell phones, right? You can be talking and think the other person is done, and then you find out that's not so, you know. There's a little bit of a pause when you're talking on a cell phone, so it takes a little bit of extra effort in listening. You don't have the visuals, where you can see the body language and the facial features and so forth. You don't have that to use in your decision making on whether it's time for you to talk or not. So that kind of does away with a little bit of the active listening. So it takes just another talent to be able to do that on the phone, I think. Another important aspect of maintaining friendships is to show appreciation for your friends. And that goes back to our car picture, maintaining that friendship. It goes back to the appreciation of it. If you appreciate your automobile, if you have one, whether it's got 3 big tires on it and 1 small one, or has, a different color fender, or the back window's broken out, or what have you, if it still runs and gets you where you need to go safely, then you can definitely appreciate that you have that. And so it is with friends also. You've got to show your appreciation for your friends from time to time. Don't assume that they're going to know that you care about them if you never ever show it. There's many ways to show that you care, and this can be as simple as, I mentioned active listening a moment ago. Active listening. Your friend is trying to tell you something and you're interrupting because you already know what they're saying. You already know the outcome of the conversation, so there's no reason for them to talk to you, because you already know it. You know it all already. That's something that we should try to get away from. That's one that you can easily fall into if you're not actively listening. If you were doing something when your friend came to you and wanted your attention, if you can't give them your attention, it might be better for you to mention to them at that time that you'll be with them shortly, or that you just got to finish this one thing and you'll be with them. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you do it respectfully, and they should be able to accept that without a problem, and then come back later. Now, if it's an emergency, you might find that they're a little bit more excited about it, and will continue trying to push that situation if it is an emergency, and at that time you'd probably understand it too and could deal with it properly. But actively listening, let's turn to page 49 for a minute. Just going over these things, just briefly hitting on them so we can know kind of where they're at, where we can go back to them from time to time when we think that we might have dealt with a situation improperly. We can go back and study a little bit and see where we might have been able to do something better. So you got to remember, listening is a choice. Of course, I got several things that you could go back and look at choice and so forth, but that's something that if you've been taking notes along the way, you can do that too. But when we really listen to people, we not only hear their words, but also their tone of voice, right? Now that's something that you can hear on the phone too, is that tone of voice. But in addition, we observe their facial expressions, their body language, and in other words, we listen with our ears, our eyes, and heart, and this is called listening with empathy. Listening with empathy simply means to listen to gain a true understanding of what you're being told. It means putting yourself in the other person's shoes and walking that mile with them. Not only is listening a choice, but it's an effective skill that will serve you well into your future. And to really listen to someone requires having the right attitude, and you must want to hear and understand what that person is saying so there can be no misunderstanding. And this requires your full attention. Sometimes getting someone's full attention can be a little bit of a job. I know in the past several days, myself, someone might have kind of flagged me down or something and wanting to tell me something, and so as I'm pulling up, I hear some words coming, but they're not quite registering or anything, and so I stop and they might still be talking. I have to stop them for a minute and say, okay, now can you tell me that again? And now they got my full attention. I can listen as best as I can with my hearing, and I can look at them too and kind of see what's going on. Plus, we've all quit moving and we're standing there together, and it's a lot easier to do at that time. And then we can come to, come to find out what's really going on. A few points to remember when listening is do repeat the intent of their words to ensure, so repeat it to them, understanding what's being said. Do encourage them to speak by using encouraging phrases. Like, really? Did you have fun? Wow. Now, I know that can be done sarcastically too, so we want to be careful how we deal with those things. But do listen with appropriate body language, show them that you're interested. Do maintain appropriate eye contact. Don't interrupt what the person's saying just to give your opinion before you even know what they're talking about. And don't change the subject in the middle of their talk unless there's something very inappropriate being talked about. Then feel free to change that subject quickly or move along. Okay, it's something to keep in mind there. Now, another aspect of maintaining friendship, to show that appreciation, of course, the active listening, so about 3/4 of the way down, it can be as simple as actively listening to a problem and offering positive ways to deal with it. And the only real way we're going to learn positive ways to deal with any situation is what? It's by learning the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, right? And by listening so you know what they're talking about and what the problem is, and then using what you learn in the Peaceful Solution to help offer them, if they're wanting you to offer, a solution to it, to help to offer them that positive way to deal with it. Appreciation can also mean taking the time to give a compliment even. A few kind words can go a long way in maintaining a friendship, as long as there's no selfish desires behind those caring words. So think about what's being said. Consider what's being said right there. Kind of ends that page with it. A few kind words can go a long way in maintaining a friendship. Man, you really did a great job on that project. Man, that was an awesome speech you just gave. Wow, I saw how you conducted yourself in that situation. You really did great. That's all fine. And if it's real and you're doing it to build up, then that's a beautiful thing. But beware of what it says at the bottom of the page. We can't leave that undone. You can't pretend that it doesn't exist. It says, as long as there are no selfish desires behind those caring words. I knew a man one time that would purposely give someone praise, on something and make them feel really great, and might do it several times, and then one time, purposely, maliciously, and with selfish desire, would throw at them something really rough. Like, I can't believe you, just totally, completely out there. And then, might turn right around and say something kind again, and then come back and do the other again, leaving the person confused, not knowing which way to go or where they stand. That's not maintaining a friendship. Maintaining a friendship also takes honesty in how you deal with these situations. And right there it says it. A few kind words can go a long way in maintaining a friendship, but be careful, be aware, as long as there are no selfish desires, no malicious intent, the intent of the heart behind those caring words. I remember talking to a supervisor one time about a situation that was going on in a workplace, and I started telling about this situation. I said, do you mind if I stop for just a minute here? This is close to home and it's kind of personal, and I really would like to make sure that what I'm about to tell you is completely the facts and that I don't have any selfish intent, the wrong intent of the heart in telling you this. I said, do you mind if I call you back? And so I sat back and I considered and thought about the situation at hand and what was taking place, and then I called back with the facts. I put the emotion aside, and that's what we need to do is to really get to the heart of a matter. And if it's kind of a situation that's got your emotions riled up and everything, you might want to slow down a little bit, put the emotions aside, think about logically and how you've been taught in the peaceful solution to handle that situation, and then go forth. Then open your mouth. Then, the person you're talking to can make a rational decision or rational suggestions on how to deal with the situation and so forth. But I assure you, if you come off all emotional and everything, it's probably not going to go nowhere. I know people that are very great. One man in particular who's a very great active listener, and if you call and talk to him wanting some advice on something, and you're very emotional about it and disgruntled and so forth, he might want you to call him back later and talk with him when you're ready to talk with him about the facts of the situation. He might even tell you to, hey, go in another room for a minute and think about it, and come call me in a few minutes or something. And he's really great at that, and it's great advice. I mean, he doesn't hold back on that, and he does it very kindly, and I'm sure without any selfish desire. So let's keep that in mind when we're dealing with people. We've got to check the intent. Check the intent of what's going on, with this friendship or in any kind of dealings that we have. Let's go ahead and move on to page 76. Okay. Yeah, let's move on to page 76. So, we have to keep in mind that even in the best of friendships, okay, before I even say this, I'd like us to remember, kick back a few gears in your mind and remember that we've got to give ourselves room to grow. All right? Just think about it. I'm not going to tell you a page number or anything else. I just want you to think about it. If you've got a book and you've seen that enough, you can probably remember the very picture on the page. Think about that. You've got to give yourself and others room to grow. So even in the best of friendships, individual likes and dislikes, personality, can cause conflicts or disagreements. This doesn't mean it's the end of a friendship. Just because there's a conflict or disagreement. In fact, one of the, jumping ahead just a little bit, one of the scenarios, if we get that far, which it doesn't look like we're going to tonight, but one of the scenarios actually talks about, two sisters, and one of them wants the room painted one color, and one of them likes the other color, and so forth, And so there's a conflict there. There's a disagreement, right? Now, does that mean that they're not going to be sisters anymore? Absolutely not. They still got the same parents and everything. They live in the same house. They're still going to be sisters, right? So why does it have to mean that you're not going to be friends with somebody anymore just because you've got some silly little conflict or disagreement, right? We need to just get over it, speak respectfully to one another, and come to a conclusion. Now, if you have one of those parties of the two or more that's not speaking respectfully and who's, towering over the other, demanding their way, that's not going to work. That's not a real positive moral friendship. It's one in which we already looked at that we shouldn't, if you go back to page 75, rejection, conformity, bullying, and cliques are problems that can arise in relationships. Well, so we know it can arise, we've got to be able to deal with it. And so even if your friend or brother or sister or whatever might be bullying, it doesn't mean it has to be an end to the friendship. It means that you, with the knowledge you have with the peaceful solution, can find a positive way to come back and deal with the situation in some way. Possibly wait until the person's calmed down or something and talk about it. All right, so the differences in personality can cause these conflicts or disagreements, and if not handled appropriately, disagreements will result in hurt feelings, anger, and resentment. And some people go their whole life without talking to one another after one of these things take place. I've seen that in family situations where, especially in the situation where somebody might have, someone might have died, and there was someone wanted this particular keepsake, and another person wanted it too, and they got in an argument over it, and these are adults fighting over something like that. I've seen it take place in real life, and then from that point on, they never talk to each other again, ever, all their life until they die. Isn't that amazing? If not handled appropriately, disagreements will result in hurt feelings, anger, and resentment. Maintaining your friendships does not mean always agreeing or going along with what your friends suggest, because even best friends will not see eye to eye all the time, right? Differences can be resolved, taken care of, solved, compromised, working together. They can be resolved as long as both parties are willing to follow just and right rules as studied from the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. I heard the author of the Peaceful Solution say that the Peaceful Solution can be used to solve any problem as long as the two people, if it's between two people, as long as the two people agree to use the Peaceful Solution. It can solve any problem. Not only two people, it can solve any problem with a group of people if that entire group agrees to using the Peaceful Solution. It'll solve it. There's no way that it won't solve it. But both parties have to agree to abide by the concepts, the proven concepts in the Peaceful Solution. That's the way that it works. It's important that you both maintain a positive moral character. Conflicts within friendships can usually fall into two categories. Those that are based on individual preferences, again, personality, and those that are based on moral principles. Now, when you have a conflict based upon moral principles, there's a bit of a problem there, and it's going to take a little bit of work. But, that goes back to some bullying or possibly one person in the group is a thief or something, some things that have to be worked on. If that person is not willing to adjust their behavior to a positive moral behavior, then that's somebody that you might have to go ahead and you might have to go ahead and at some point in time do the engine removal. You might have to remove them, the friend removal. If it doesn't change, if they're not willing to change, because that would be bad company. If you and your friends disagree over personal preferences, remember to be respectful of their feelings. Don't put them down because their ideas are different from yours. Use self-control and humility to keep the problem from getting out of hand. Simple words such as I apologize, I was wrong, or please, it can really cool things down when arguments heat up, How can somebody who's mad continue being mad when you say please? Or, thank you for pointing that out, or, I'm sorry, I was wrong about that. How can they keep on, Holding on to anger, hostility, and resentment can destroy the best of friends. Stop and consider what's really important. Winning a petty argument or practicing your skills in communication, self-control, and humility. All these things that you're learning in the Peaceful Solution. Look for ways to compromise so that each person's needs are met and no one feels like their ideas or opinions are rejected. Now, don't compromise your moral character, but you can compromise your immediate actions, or the opinions, that personality, or the disagreement or conflicts that the differences in personality are causing. You can say, you know what, let's go ahead and paint it green. Oh, let's paint half the room green and half the room blue. That was a suggestion that was offered by some young men today when we were talking about it. So, there's always a way to deal with it. Keep in mind that the most important aspect of maintaining a moral character within positive friendships is to stand up for what is right. So if you and your friends disagree over issues that are based on moral principles such as honesty, respect, and responsibility, you don't ever compromise on that. Even for the best of your friends. If you don't stand for what's right, you can fall for anything. And by standing firm on a moral decision, you will not get pressured into doing something you will regret. You can also, by your example, encourage and motivate your friends to make choices that are moral as well. And it's far better to separate from someone that you once thought was a friend, engine removal time, than to compromise your true moral values. I might add, though, to that, keeping in mind that we want to do everything, decently and in order, as we're taught in the Peaceful Solution, you don't go off half-cocked just because the person has a problem, and it doesn't seem like they're dealing with it at the time. You can always go to your teacher in the Peaceful Solution. You can find an authority figure that you trust and respect and that has proven their wisdom and knowledge, in the past, and you can go to them and ask how you might deal with the situation. Don't go and remove that engine without knowing if you really have to or not. Don't go and remove that friend, you know what I mean? You want to make sure first. Get a second opinion. Be sure about these things, okay? Because it might be something that the person is working on. It might be something that they're getting help on. And at that time, they need a positive friend, okay? Let's remember that. And I want to thank you all for attending tonight. The next class for the Teacher Certification Program will be on this coming Wednesday night or evening at 5:30. And I think the date is the 6th. Thank you. So let's keep that in mind. Look forward to seeing all of you in person and online. Thank you for coming.